it's all over. It is now. It's four.
Beckham into Sheringham. And Solskjaer has done it.
Lee, interesting.
Very interesting. Oh, look at his face. Just look at his face.
And finds Beckham. Beckham now to Owen. And here's another Owen run. He's going to worry them again. It's a great run by Michael Owen. And he might finish it off. Oh, it's a wonderful goal.
Is Gascoigne going to have a crack? He is, you know.
Oh, I say. Brilliant. That is schoolboy's own stuff.
Manchester City are still alive here. Balotelli. Aguero. Miller, lovely cushioned header. But Gerrard! Oh, you beauty! What a head, son! What a head!
Shut up and sit down.
Welcome to the second edition of the Soccer Shed podcast with me, Ryallzey, and on my other side of me right now, Mr. Steelyard. How you doing?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, how are you?
Yeah, very well, very well. Second one. It's come around pretty quick, hasn't it?
It has. Yeah.
I just want to elaborate a little bit, just to touch a little bit on the first one, this debut show that we put out there last week. Some of the feedback was fantastic. Got some good listeners, good followers straight away.
Yeah,
on
social media, Twitter especially. Got really some good
feedback.
Yeah, good accounts following us already.
Yeah. So we're really excited. It's been a good start. Me personally, I don't know about you, but I couldn't wait to get stuck into the second one. Last week was it was good, but was finding his feet a little bit. And I think this week for me, I think we're going to take it up a notch. What do you reckon?
Well, we're all prepared, mate, aren't we?
You're gonna have to excuse the voice a little bit. I'm a little bit rough in the old voice. He's laughing at me right now.
There's a change. Is rough.
There's a change. Monday. It's Monday. We're recording this on a Monday. It's coming out on a Wednesday. And yeah, I am feeling a touch rough still from Saturday night, which is your fault, by the way. But we may touch on that a little bit later on. So today, big show, two halves as ever. We've got the first half coming up, which is kind of current affairs, which is what I want to talk about to start with. We've got a little bit of our time entertainment. Let you go get a drink, get a bite to eat, whatever, or maybe you just want to dance around and have a sing to the song that we play for the half time. And then Mr. Steelyard, the other second half. What we're going to look forward to?
The second half this week is I'm going to be talking about why the 1990s was a golden era for English strikers.
A golden era. I know we're just talking just English strikers.
Yeah, just English strikers. So I'm going to chuck some facts and stats your way. See what you think, and you'll see compared over the last 50 years, basically the 1990s. You can't touch it for English talent.
For English talent,
striking talent.
Top. Yeah, and it's. Do you know what as well? Without going too much into it, isn't it quite mad that if you think it's the best era we've ever had, it's probably the closest we've ever come to anything as a national side as well.
Exactly. 1996. Yeah, it's no. That's definitely no more than a coincidence.
Super. So that's the second half, and I mean, if you're anything like me, I can't wait to get stuck into that. There'll be some great facts and figures from our man Stato right here over from me, and I'm less off the cuff today. You know, I'm still in your face, but I'm less off the cuff. I've done a little bit of.
I know you've got a notepad with you.
I brought a notepad today. I've done a little bit of research, and I wanted to print it off, but my printer's jammed, so I've had to write it, which I'm not used to writing. I haven't wrote for a long time, so hopefully I'll be able to read my own handwriting today. So what I want to talk about today, I've been putting some statuses out there on the Facebook page, just asking about the FA Cup. Your thoughts on it? Do you still love it? Is there still loads of magic involved with the FA Cup? Is it dying? If it's dying, why is it dying? And how can we fix it? So before I get into it, I just want to know your views on the FA Cup. What do you think? Is it dead? Or is it life support? Or is it still got everything that it had, I don't know, 20 years ago for you?
I think a lot of people, I'm a traditionalist. I like the FA Cup. When we were younger and stuff, it was a massive day on TV, wasn't it, the FA Cup?
Soccer's the final day, cup final day.
And I think I think the top clubs are losing interest in it, but I think there's still a lot of clubs out there that use it, and if luck goes their way, financially it can secure them for years. So yeah, I very much still like the FA Cup, and hopefully, well, I'm interested to see what your plan is.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm same as you really. FA Cups, it's still a big deal. It's probably not as bigger deal to me being a Liverpool supporter as what it once was. And I think most, and this is maybe selfish for big clubs, I think you tend to look at your league and your Champions League, and then it's the FA Cup, and then it's the League Cup. So it tends to be third on the list for me as a Liverpool supporter. But even if it's a third, it's a distant third to seconds. You know what I mean? It's not like, it's hard for me sometimes to pick between Premier League and Champions League. I think if I was to pick my overall favourite football to watch on a weekly basis or when it's on, I think Champions League level is above Premier League. I think the quality that you get, especially when you get to February and it's the second round, the quarters, and it's big teams versus big teams over 2 legs, and I think the level of football that you get in that, I think, is incredible at times, and that is my favourite football to watch. But I think, winning the Premier League for the first time this season, a Liverpool supporter, the league is, for me, it's still your bread and butter. It's still the one you have to go to, and then
of course it is,
you build on that. The Champions League's your cream on your cake, if you like. But then they're close 1 and 2, whereas your FA Cup to me now it's like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of it. Let's say it was a close Premiership race like last season, and 1 point were between first and second, and then third were God knows what, 20 points behind that. So it's a long way down. So what I've done is I've looked into the FA Cup, and I've looked into just why it seems to have lost a little bit of its magic, and I'm purely thinking along the lines of, I think that the arrogance of the FA Cup is kind of thinking that it can keep going and keep being the magic of the cup, like they like to advertise it, without actually thinking that maybe we need to rethink this a little bit. Maybe we need to bring that FA Cup, even though is it the oldest
cup competition
in the world,
in world football,
but even that to me says it even more needs modernising, needs upgrading to try and make it. You might never make it as appealing as the Champions League or the Premier League, but you can get it a close third rather than a distant running third. So first of all, what I looked into this week was, what are the attendances like? Because I know as a Liverpool fan, trying to get a ticket for, unless you're a season ticket holder, trying to get a ticket for a normal league game, trying to get a ticket for a Champions League game it's almost impossible at times to get a ticket. But if you want to get a ticket for the FA Cup, there's a cup scheme that you do because it's not as popular. The price has come down a little bit, and you more or less guaranteed to get one. There's a fan scheme. It's called an auto cup scheme, where you register.
That's pretty much what you rely on to go see Liverpool as well, isn't it?
Well, yeah,
because
it's really tough to get the. I mean, I was on the season ticket waiting list for a long time, and then things happen. You get married, you have kids, and even if I was offered a season ticket now, being from Doncaster, it'd be tough for me to get every game. So, yeah, the FA Cup games. I stopped going to League Cup games because there wasn't. I don't know. League Cup is another drop off in itself, but back before Liverpool became the Jurgen Klopp force. I mean, you know me, I went to the Champions League final in 2007. I've been to FA Cup finals, been to loads of league games. So it has got difficult. The appeal of the Premier League and the Champions League is a lot more than the FA Cup. So overall attendances this year, before we hit the lockdown for the FA Cup, were down. For over 10 years, it's been like the lowest attendance.
In
total, yeah, across an average, across the board. And the study said that even if the stadiums were full between now and the end of the season and the FA Cup finishing, the attendance level wouldn't have risen that much, and it would have still been the lowest it's been for, I think it's about 11, 12 years, something like that. Which says to you one thing, that people are not as interested in it as what it was. And then the biggest statistic that I found when I was researching this was the attendance at a Premier League and a Championship club drops on average by 10,000 fans per club. So there's an average drop from attendances of 10,000 fans across the board. Which, when you think about that is a lot of fans. That's 10,000 fans for every club where it drops across the board. Now, that's like I said, that's not just saying, oh well, they're going away and they're playing at grounds that only hold 5,000. That is a statistic that just applies to Premier League and Championship clubs, which says to me that there's not that big of appeal.
Yeah.
Right, and people are not as interested in going to watch the FA Cup.
Well, that works both ways as well, because FA Cup games, you get more away fans.
Yeah.
So the away fans obviously aren't travelling either.
Travelling as much, yeah. Which obviously, it's just when you read that, you think, wow, that's shocking. Because I can remember FA Cup when we was growing up in the 90s, it was a massive deal. I mean, I can remember when Liverpool got beat 4-3, 1990, Crystal Palace, and I was in tears because we didn't get to the FA Cup final. I was in tears. I was distraught. It was massive. You could argue maybe more so back then because obviously the English clubs went through the ban where there wasn't in Europe.
Yeah,
for the
there were
time.
no European football.
But even before that, even if you think about the 80s, the FA Cup memories, it was a big event. It was a big day. You know, it was a big deal to win the FA Cup. And now it doesn't seem to have it. So what I've done today is I've kind of gone through the Ryallzey's 5-point plan to revitalise, to give some magic back to the FA Cup. So I'm going to put them to you.
Yeah.
And I want to know what you think as to my ideas.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm hoping somebody of power is going to listen to this and say, get in touch with Ryallzey. See if you can help us out in obviously turning this.
Can I
FA
just
Cup
say
around.
something from the first thing you said? You
Yeah.
know about you as a Liverpool fan, Premier League, Champions League, distant third FA Cup. I think, obviously that will apply to the big 6, 7. You know, those that are in and around Champions League places all the time. Why would you care about the FA Cup? But the rest of the Premier League and below, it's obviously not that distant because some of their seasons rely on it. And if you take like a Newcastle fan, they've not won a trophy for 50 years, I think it is now. An FA Cup final, they'd absolutely love it.
So why do managers put, even for those teams? They put out weakened teams.
Yeah, I know they do. Yeah,
they don't. You know, because it's the over reliance on the Premier League money.
I don't think the fans are happy about that, though.
No. And this is
they'll see that as a chance to win a trophy, and the managers aren't taking it seriously.
Yeah, definitely. And this is what I want to get into today in terms of that, because you know, a lot of football now has become money orientated, which I'm going to touch on in terms of the TV and how the TV impacts obviously when we watch football, and whether that's good for the fans, whether that's good for the game. The people at the top will see that as thinking, well, you know, if I get an extra £1 million for playing this game on this particular day at this particular time, they're going to take it, regardless of how that affects a fan. You know, it's not just FA Cup for this. I thought, was it last season or the season before, when I think it was the 23rd of December on a Friday that Liverpool were forced to play away at Arsenal on a night game, you know, which was just mental. But they did it because obviously Sky dictated when that game were going to be played, and they fall in line with that, which brings me. I know I listen to a lot of other people talking, and you know the rumour that's going around now, or Simon Jordan's been pushing it about. You know, the Premier League having its own subscription service, which will make them even more money than what the TV revenue gives them, which will give them greater control over when games are played. Whether that comes into effect in the next, 5 or 10 years, I guess we'll see. I do think it'll happen at some point in the future. I think it will have its own subscription service. Because another argument is when they brought out these extra channels to compete, and they said it was going to be fairer for the fan. How was it fairer for the fan to pay 2 subscriptions to watch Premier League football opposed to 1?
Yeah.
It's just made it more expensive.
Yeah.
So I hope that, because he was saying you could use a model of like charging a £10 a month subscription, which is obviously a lot cheaper.
That's cheaper than Sky alone, isn't it?
Yeah. But then he said you'd encourage more fans to buy it, and obviously then you'd make more money out of it than what they do currently. So I think it will happen. When that does happen, I'm not sure, but I do think eventually that will happen. So the first one, anyway, like I said, I've got the 5-point plan that I'm going to put to you, and I'm going to start with. I know it's only a new change that's coming this year, but it's a change that's massive, and it's a change it's really ruffled some feathers across the board. And I want to start by saying, I don't want to get into the argument about doing it for the Premier League, although I think it does need some massive revamps already. Ditch VAR. Do you know why I say ditch VAR?
Go on.
Because if Liverpool's playing at home to, Oldham Athletic at Anfield, VAR is used. If Liverpool are playing away at Oldham Athletic, VAR is not used.
Yeah, it's not a fair.
It's not.
Thing, is it? Yeah,
it's not out, because let's say Oldham. I don't know. I'm just trying to give Oldham a chance here. Scored a goal
up the Latics.
Yeah, that was rightly ruled off for offside, but it was a tight call. Yeah, and they didn't win that game. But if it was, I'm not saying this is right, but the same call at their ground might have been given a goal. So you can't have one rule in one game and another rule. It just makes a mockery of it.
Yeah, completely agree with
it.
that.
It takes the credibility of it off it straight away. It's just like idiots at the top playing with it and just saying, well, do you know what we do? We'll put it on that game there for Man U Villa. But poor old, I don't know, trying to think of it off the top of my head, Colchester. We're not going to put it in there. So, but how can that be fair? You can't have a competition under it. And it is watching a game of football with VAR. Even though the game is the same, the outcome isn't necessarily the same. There's so much implications that VAR has these days on games.
Yeah, they don't need